Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is currently March 04, 2010, and this is Day 9 Daily number 82 coming up today. I am in a wonderful mood. I feel great, and I just wanted to briefly share with you one of my absolutely favorite photos of myself of all time. This is from BlizzCon. This is me and Chill, as you know, he was my co-caster in the Team Liquid Star League. And I went around to all these famous people who were there, and I was like, let's take photos, guys. I just kept taking pictures and everything, and I'm horrible, so I missed like 15 times. Like, here, let's just go through the screw-up, actually. I've shown this series in one of my earlier dailies, but as more people are viewing, I want to share the joy, right? So I just saw Rhett at BlizzCon. I've known him forever, and it's the first time I've ever met him in real life. So I run up to him and take this picture, and he's just like, what the fuck? Like, I'm like totally loopy and tired. I've been up forever, as usual. And he's just like getting all suspicious, and I'm just like, woo! Alright, so I go over to Idra and I take a photo, and as you'll note, I'm still not so good at what I want to do, so I look retarded, and then I get a normal photo with Greg, yeah, looking happy. And then I go up to Chill and I take a photo, but I cover up the flash, so of course it screws up, and we get this hilarious photo, right? And I swear to God, at this point, I thought this was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I just can't take photos. I'm like photo disabled, right? So then I start laughing harder than I've ever laughed in my entire life and take this photo. Oh my God. Guys, I'm so happy in this picture. I can't even open my eyes. I'm laughing so hard. And my nose looks like malformed because I'm scrunching my face so hard. And look, my tongue's coming out. I'm like giggling like a little girl, man. Oh. Man, that was a quality day. I did enjoy that one. Oh, but alas, today is today, and that was then. And we are going to be examining some quality games from Overskys. If I can open up my beta here. Yeah, there we go. I'm feeling good. I'm at my computer. We get to actually examine some games of StarCraft, because I actually walked to the store earlier today, and, you know, long-distance physical exercise is not something I actually have been doing as of late. And, okay, I just want to show you this. So I didn't want to be late for the cast, right? I wanted to come back, and I ran, and I know I'm kind of like a big guy, and I kind of like sweat a lot, but I had no idea. Okay, this is the shirt that I went walking in. Do you guys see that epic pit stain? I did not know. I sweat worse than like a sumo wrestler jumping rope in an attic. Okay, this shirt, I took this off 2 hours ago. What is this? It's like some sort of genetically engineered human sweat. Ugh. I want to go under a black light. I'm scared to like be bright and radioactive and shit. But, alright. Coming right back over, we are looking at Overskys games today. Overskys, very strong Zerg player. He's been posting a ton on TeamLiquid.net as of late. He also does a whole bunch of his own YouTube video commentaries that you can find it at Perfectionist Emblem. That's his YouTube name, Perfectionist Emblem. And he posted this series of games where he played 100 games of the StarCraft 2 beta in an hour. Or in a day. He played 100 games in an hour. I bet you think all those games are cool. Yeah. Went through 100 games in 24 hours. There we go. That's what I meant to say. And it's an excellent example of being able to look at one player's evolution over time. So we're going to look at a few of those right now, and then we're going to check out, I'm going to wrap everything up with a game he played today, actually, not long ago against Louder. I'm beginning at game 75 of his 100 games, and this is actually pre-patch, but we're going to specifically look at his pre-patch games so that way we can have comments on his new games. So I actually went through and watched a lot of these games that he did, and what I loved about them is that he had a consistent opening in all of them. So that way we can actually talk about it and how it changes. For the most part, Oversky in his games, and I actually have not seen the one that I'm about to open up, in his games he was opening up primarily one hatch going into roaches. So we're going to be talking quite a bit about that. And of course Oversky has been posting a ton of his videos again on his YouTube account, Perfectionist Emblem. Want to make sure to plug that because I didn't actually ask for his permission to do all his games, so hopefully he doesn't mind too much. Alright, fantastic. So we have this map, which is Scrapyard or Scrap Station. This has a crazy long path to get to your opponent's base, so I really recommend going for early expands on this map. I don't know if we're going to see Oversky do that in this series of games, but just figure that we should make everyone aware of that. So 14 of 18 food still has not done anything as of yet. And one thing that I think is really what was I going to say? Oh yeah, that's really great to watch the series of one player play hundreds and hundreds of games, or if you don't have time, tens and tens of games. If you can watch all of them, you have the opportunity to see how one strategy functions. So for instance, I have never opened Roaches. I just haven't, except in Zerg vs. Zerg. So watching these games gives me the opportunity to see them. And in fact, watching Overskys games was the inspiration for me to avoid going Roaches, because I saw what he was doing, and I saw it and went, I mean, I can do that. I don't really want to spend the time practicing it. I want to explore other things. So that way, if there does come a time where I could either go for like fast Roach builds or go for some sort of weird fast tech to Hydralisks or something like that, I have knowledge of both of those available. I'm not trying to commit to being the best player yet or anything like that. I'm trying to diversify and sort of dabble around and see as many strategies as I can. So this is a great, great little opportunity to do so. And also, I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but I think my screen's glitching every now and again and showing a StarCraft 2 beta loading screen, but hopefully that goes away. So yeah, we have the spawning pool, and let's see if he does in fact go for some sort of fast Roach Warren. I noticed the timing of this build. Spawning pool just finished, and we have about 300 right when it finished, so we can get a Queen's Nest and a Roach Warren right at the same time, if that so happened to be what we wanted to do. And tossing guys in there. This is way back in time when gateways built super, super quickly, so this is something to consider in these games. Part of the motivation why I bet that there was a lot of early roaching going on in Overskys play. Now this is something interesting. Again, I haven't seen this game. Overskys adjusting his build and getting that hatchery up a little bit earlier. And that's one thing that's very important to do whenever you are doing any strategy, which is the flexibility that you have on other maps. See, look at this. This is so cool. I always talk about rearrangement of components of your build, and we're seeing that right here. Most of the games I watched of Oversky, he went for the Roach Warren right as his spawning pool finished. Spent that initial 300 on a Queen and a Roach Warren. On this map with the long attack distances, he's going to expand first and then get the Roach Warren. On closer maps, he'd go Roach Warren, then Expo, but on this map, he's doing a little adjustment of that. I actually watched a game of his against Smuffed on Kulas Ravine, where that's actually exactly what Oversky did, went Roach right into expansion. So we have the Protoss player doing his usual thing. We're not going to focus too much on this, but suffice to say that he's going for some sort of ground and getting a Forge early on. Ooh, not so sure I'm a fan of that. But of course, this was pre-patch, so this is when people were super experimenting. And, trying to keep track of this Queen, make sure everything's all in well. Now this is something interesting to think about, is how do we hotkey, or how do we think about when to respawn more larvae from our Queen? That's actually something that I've been struggling with, because for some fucking reason I can't not spawn Protoss when I go random, so I haven't gotten the chance to practice a lot with Zerg. So when I was making myself play with Zerg the other day, I was having a big issue remembering to vomit larvae on here. So I don't know if I should be hotkeying my Queen and checking like that, or whether I should actually be just glancing down here whenever I'm tapping on my hatch to see what the progress is of those larvae getting ready to pop out. But again, little things to think about. So we have Roaches coming out, early Roaches and all that jazz. I think that destroying these rocks is actually going to hurt the Protoss more than it's going to help them. It's kind of a cool idea, because we get the chance to open up for super crazy aggression really, really early on. But mass Zealot against even a reasonable number of Roaches is kind of tough for the Zealoting player. And getting more Roaches. Still no drones being made. This is something that I would want to test, right? We see that the Protoss is just barreling down our front, right? He really wants to get in here. I don't necessarily know if we need to get that many Roaches there. I mean, it's really looking like the case that it is, but ideally we'd want some sort of economic boost. And Roaches units are probably the best choice right here, because we need to have some way to defend both our main and our expansion. We don't really have a mutual choke for those at all. So we have the Zealots coming in. A lot of people say, oh yeah, Roaches just rape Zealots. That's not exactly the case. Zealots are pretty strong. So a question that I have right now is, we got this base up really early, but we haven't exactly gotten to make use of it. Notice that none of these mineral patches have really had anything mined from. We have 20 minerals from here. So in the process of playing all these games, again, note that this is Overskys' like 72nd game in 24 hours. He's been playing a long time. He's an endurance machine, right? So, there are obvious reasons why perhaps, not forgetting all those other things, but let's discount all that, right? Let's pretend that this is Overskys' first game. He's playing fresh. What I would notice from this, if I rewatched my own replay, is how can I make use of this expansion earlier? I got a lot of roaches early on, but I'm also having a lot of larvae stockpile up here. Perhaps I should get a few drones mining right here, like 5 or 6, and then go back to getting roaches. So that way, I can get a good amount later, be a little bit more vulnerable early on, but that's okay because there's this huge, long distance that I have to travel down. And Zealots are pretty slow without the speed upgrade. And, decent micro going on here. Nothing too fancy. Doing this burrow stuff, that's awesome. Just burrow, heal, burrow again. And, I like this defense quite a bit, right? He got the early burrow. It's helping him defend this expansion. So what I would actually think is perhaps a better opening to adjust, from seeing this roach opening with Oversky. Let's, instead of getting a whole bunch of roaches early, let's first get some drones and burrow, so that way we can get a good economy going. Then we'll just get 5 or 6 roaches pop out and do burrow, unburrow micro, because they heal so quickly while underground. I'm hoping we're going to see him burrow again we did end up letting it die. Not the biggest deal. But I'm hoping that I can just illustrate how fast these things actually end up healing when underground. So that seems like a pretty cool way to defend early rushes is to go for roach early on. Go for burrow and drones early on, and then for roaches. So see, I'm getting all this knowledge about roach builds, even though I have never opened roach in this matchup. That's what's so cool about watching one player's replays over and over and over again, as we get that opportunity to see that sort of stuff go on. So we're going to watch just a few more replays of Oversky pre-patch. And look at this, that's so awesome, doing just a little bit of harassment with 3 roaches, putting the pressure back on. And in the meanwhile, looks like he was continuing to get a ton of drones, looks like he's vomiting larvae all over the place, and he's getting a spire. Roach right into spire. That's why we saw this very early gas here. All sorts of fancy schmancy stuff going on. Oversky's actually one of the first players I saw make extensive use of Overlord, I guess Overlord vomiting, considering I love the use of the word vomit. Yeah, I mean, he just has his Overlords just puking all over the map, just making sure that there is as much coverage all over the place with his creep as he can. And some nice fancy schmancy micro going on with the roaches. And I love this early burrow with the roaches for 2 reasons. First of all, it allows us to defend against early pressure exceptionally well, right? This is such a big benefit to be able to burrow, unburrow, and really punish those slower zealots. The zealots that are much slower actually than our roaches. But also, it allows us to immediately contain the Protoss. It's almost like getting lurkers, right? We can just burrow, unburrow right outside his base. We can even burrow right here, underneath here. It forces our opponent to get some sort of robotics facility early on. And that's actually pretty interesting. I'd never even considered these advantages with roaches until right now in this game. Again, I have not watched these games right now. I am just winging it based upon the fact that I've seen a lot of Overskys' other games and that he opens roaches. And that's what's so cool is that just with that knowledge I'm able to load up here knowing that everyone will at least learn a little bit about roaches, and we are in fact learning quite a bit. And we see the ventral sacks getting uploaded right here. I have no idea if that's intentional because I've actually noticed that in my playing, because I spam V so much, trying to build more Overlords, I research the ventral sack in like 80% of my games. It's kind of like if you get a Queen's Nest and then you accidentally get a Hive because you're trying to make Hydralisks in StarCraft 1. I don't know if that's the case. I actually am going to post that in the support forums, be like, change that hotkey. And I'm briefly going to unmute the chat because I'm seeing that there is a little bit of lag on my end. I just want to make sure that it is okay, so I'm going to post okay and see if everyone is checking everything out properly. Alright, hey, everything is going fancy schmancy. I'm getting lots of people typing fantastic things in the chat, bouncing right on back over, and continuing right along. This is a really cool transition. I'm liking this transition a lot, right? Look at the money. Look how great this money composition is. There's not a lot of drones here, mainly being devoted to gas. Again, I don't know if that ventral sacks is the goal, but look how low the money is with the Mutalisk coming out. This is so awesome. Using small numbers of roaches. Look, there's only 6 roaches. We haven't really seen that number get past 10 for a long time. Actually, I don't think ever in this game have we seen it get above 10. Just a very small number of roaches. Look, running in here. Going to burrow almost inevitably soon. Yeah, burrowing one. Burrowing another. Oh, you're so cute, Overskys. Yeah, look how fast that roach hit point is going up. Easy containment, very easy to manage this army. Small number of roaches let us get Mutalisk very quickly. I now want to go try this. Or actually on fast, and you bump it up to faster. And getting an observer, continuing to make these sentries. Stalkers, Jesus, I'm really bad at that, aren't I? And look, a little bit of harassment at the expansion. No way. I don't think so, Cannon. Get on out. Get at them all, bite. Pushing them back. Killing off the pylon, and that's one thing that I didn't realize, is that pylons are actually super weak. They were 300, 300 in StarCraft 1, but now they are 200, 200. It's a pretty significant adjustment. And now I'm actually starting to see here that I like Protoss's job of tearing down these destructible rocks early on. I know I wanted to just oogle at Overskys this entire game, but notice that with these destructible rocks gone, the Protoss can expand here, and it's very safe to push this way. In fact, by pushing along this center path, we defend this expansion. And at this key time, Zerg has just gotten Mutalisks, so he can put pressure on us as Protoss. That makes it really hard to mount any offensive against the Zerg if we had to take this super duper long path. As we're waltzing all our units up along this roundabout way, the Zerg could just be killing us off with Mutalisks. But because these are already down, I can put pressure on the Zerg player as Protoss. Quite effectively, actually. Going up here to kill Overlords, I like this a lot. But look at this food differential. 75 food to 45 food. Holy crap. Target firing the Overlord, I'm almost certain that's a mistake, because we're going to see everything just get chased down. Just going to go ahead and speed things up. We're just going to take a look at one or two more replays, probably a little bit faster on. But look at this. Easy peasy transition, right? What did we learn in this game? We saw that small numbers of roaches with burrow can defend from rushes early on and contain Protoss for a very, very long time, allowing us to get Mutalisks. So we see yet more Mutalisks popping out. Saw some Zerglings being incorporated into this mix as well. I would actually, oh yeah, sorry, look at this Zerg's money, 1,200, ooh, that's high. But it's not so much saying, oh yeah, Overskys awful, right? Instead what I'm saying is, oh look, with this build, Overskys can actually afford to expand here. Maybe we can take some units and even kill this off and expand twice as we're getting Mutalisks, because I'm pretty sure these Mutalisks would contain our opponent for quite some time, right? Push him back quite a bit. So that is going to, I'm just going to go ahead and leave, even though this game's not quite done yet. I'm just going to come right back here to the main screen. I think that's a pretty cool example of how to get away with doing a whole bunch of fancy schmancy stuff with roaches early on, and how they allow you to transition into Mutalisks. And then as we think more about that money management, we can think of new possibilities of maybe, oh my god, I have the money to expand, can I get away with an expansion? And because I love expanding more than anything in the world, I'm like such an expo monkey, right? I always try to get away with like 8 expansions before Pool and Zerg vs. Protoss, you know. It's cool to see a build where we sense the Protoss is distracted and busy enough with all the stuff we're doing that we can actually get away with an expansion. So we're going to go ahead and do one more of these replays. And again, this is when Overskys had actually been playing for about probably 18 or so hours. This is his 80th of 100 games in 24 hours. So, serious machine. And I know he's been branching out a lot more and trying to do some Hydra-based openings. So that's what we're going to examine for as we go for this the final replay. Again, this is the second replay we're looking at right now. Again, it appears that there's a little bit of a glitch screen in that transition, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. We have Zerg playing against Overskys. This is a game on Kulas Ravine. So one difference about the map is that I'm actually going to follow along here, if you will, with me. I don't know how well you can see this. I think my gamma's pretty high. Let's adjust to Ruha. Oh, it's not actually letting me adjust my gamma. Interesting. Return to the game. Anyways, if you can actually see here, this is a natural expansion, and as we're going north, look, we're already at the top left base. So this attack path right here, if you just follow me on the mini-map, this is pretty short, so I think we're going to need to account for that. The cross positions are pretty long, and horizontal positions are pretty long, because your opponent has to cut through the center and then to the right. In other words, if I'm on the left side of the map and my opponent is anywhere on the right side of the map, I'm pretty far. But if we're on the same side, it's pretty close. So you always need to account for that. This was actually a big consideration on the map Gaia in StarCraft 1. Vertical positions were very close, and everything else was pretty damn far away. So we see a drone scouting very early on. Question is, what are we going to use this drone for? Could be a number of things. Again, I've noted that Overskys likes these Roach first openings. I've seen him do that plenty in the games that I've watched of his. So he could be saying, I'm just going to straight up open Roach on this map, I know it, so I just want to make sure my opponent is not going for some proxy gate, and I want to make sure he's not going for some sort of fast expansion on the cross map. Therefore, I'm going to scout cross map. But again, since I've said that I'm a little bit more of an expansion hungry player, what my thinking would be is I'm going to take an early scout and see if he is vertical with me. So that way I can try to get away with early expanding myself, because again, I love early expanding. So lots of things that you can do with an early drone scout. Make sure it has purpose. Oh my god. There are hundreds of players out there who are just like, well, I scouted on 9 because they want to know what he does. And they literally are not making any deviations from their plan at any point in the game. They literally are just scouting just for ease of mind. Or even worse, this is like way worse, okay? And this might actually surprise some people that I actually think this is much worse, okay? A lot of people will scout for ease of mind. They'll just scout to go, oh, I want to see what he's doing. And then back home, they will literally be making 0 changes anywhere in their build. That's actually okay because they have a build they're sticking to. The worst thing that you can do is to scout him, to see what he's doing and say, oh, he's doing that? What do I do now? That's so bad! Oh, don't do that. Holy fucking shit, you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to say, here is my plan, and these 3 deviations are part of my plan. So I need to scout him to see what deviation I'm going to take. I'm going to go back to StarCraft 1 for this. If I'm a Zerg player, and I see my opponent early expanding, let's say Zerg vs. Terran, which is the matchup I always tend to reference. If I see my Terran opponent early expanding, I'm going to make a ton of drones. I'm getting my 3rd base really quickly. If I see my opponent fast gassing, I'm actually going to not take my 3rd anywhere early on at all. I'm actually going to be probably getting Hydra-based early on so I can defend against 2-port wraiths, so I can defend against some early tank push, some sort of weird 1 barracks push early on, just something techie. If I see my opponent just going for 1 base, 2 barracks, I'm going to go lurkers, but I'm going to also delay that 3rd very long. Notice how I had 3 plans based upon 3 different possibilities my Terran opponent was doing. Early expand, 2 barracks, 1 base, or 1 base fast gas. I had that plan early on, and when I scout for that specifically. So we see this drone scout going on. He hasn't really seen anything here. He's still in the dark, so what do we see? We see a spawning pool go down right now. Hoorah! Hip hip huzzam! Scouting is so important as long as you know what you're scouting for. There are some builds that I've been doing in StarCraft 2 where I realize, man, I'm really doing the same thing no matter what he's doing, so I just don't really scout early on, unless for some reason I need to know his position, at which point I'll actually be scouting to around here, and then just bouncing away up to this top expansion. I don't really need to go all the way into his base to see if he's there. I'm just trying to find his location somewhere. And fortunately we see that Overskys is going for, I believe, as I have seen in his other games, I think he is going for yet again another Roach opening. That's what's so cool. Again, oh my god, I get to see everything he's doing. Oh, look at that timing. Spawning pool, blah, pops up, getting the queen right away, getting 2 more drones. No Zerglings out yet. This drone has gotten into his opponent's base, sees exactly what's up, sees only 1 gateway, and therefore knows that he can get away with getting 2 more drones early on. Wasn't that nifty? I actually just want to scroll back just a little bit. So we see... I didn't scroll back quite fast enough, but, you know, you get the idea. Yeah, I mean, this drone had already been there for a little bit of time. And notice that this larva had been saved up, you know, partly because of the Overlord, but also it's important to note that those 2 larvae could have been devoted to Zerglings if he did see some sort of intense 2-gate, maybe even a 2-gate right there at the expo. Something I adore. And moving right along... What opening is he going to be going for right now? Oh, he's been early expanding. Cool. You know, what's interesting is that when I watched a lot of his early games, around the 74, or excuse me, around the 54 mark or so, I was seeing a lot of Roach stuff going early on, like a Roach being thrown down right now. And in particular, there was a game against Smucked, where Smucked went for a very fast 2-gate rush. And again, this is pre-patched, so these 2 gates took 50 seconds to build instead of 65. So in those games, we saw Overskys get that Roach Warren early on, and then he got the hatchery. And in this game, he's seeing a fast gas, so he's like, yeah, I'm cool, I'm not too worried about it, I'm just going to go ahead and get that. And oh, look, getting a lair right away. Fancy. And look, the queen's already snuggling up to that hatchery, ready to vomit on it a little bit, which, as we note, in Zerg is the simplest form of showing affection. Look, I love you. Getting a Roach Warren early on. Again, that same sort of early defense, and this is so cool to actually see right now. It's looking like a similar transition to what we were seeing earlier on. With this layer going down, I can conceive Zerg building 4, 5, 6 roaches, defending this, maybe even getting an early burrow to bolster that roach defense, and then going straight for Mutalisks as we saw on Scrapyard. 3 gateways going down. And again, for any of you who didn't know this, who aren't in the beta, warp gates build units faster than gateways, in addition to warping, so a lot of players like getting them very quickly on. That's why people like this warp gate cybernetics core, gateway cybernetics core gateway, is because they can start building up a whole bunch of gas with 2 assimilators, or with, 2 assimilators only mining from 1. Yeah, always remember to put guys in the gas. I'll just keep my mouse over here so we can see how long that takes. But yeah, they like doing this gateway assimilator, then 2 more gateways, because it means, though they don't have a lot of units early on, they can just bang out a whole bunch of units right away by getting that early warp gate. And because they get early gas, they can get a bunch of sentries in there as well. And that actually is a sentry. I meant to call the sentry a sentry, as opposed to calling a stalker a sentry, which is my favorite bad habit to have. And of course, more vomiting going on. Oh, look at this, rushing to the layer just to get this range upgrade for the Roach. I believe that is a range upgrade. The glial reconstitution upgrade. That's actually pretty cool. Just continuing this idea of using roaches to bolster everything and getting Overlord speed. Again, one of the best techniques I see Overskys do is just make sure all the Overlords are puking at all points in time, extending that creep as far and as wide around the map as possible, puking on all the expos, puking all the way from base to base. And by the way, just to be clear, I think everyone should call it Overlord puking, because it is my life goal to have everyone in the StarCraft community talking like me. And oh my god, we have just broached 1,000 viewers. Thank you to all 1,000 viewers who are showing up today. One thing I did want to say is that with the maximum amount of viewers right now, GoSuGamers.net is having their annual awards for StarCraft, the 2009 awards, and I was nominated for the Community Award. So please go to GoSuGamers.net and vote for me, because I want to win the internets, guys. And this little rush we're seeing right here, this 4-gate warp gate push, I don't know if you can support 5 quite so early on. If you're in the middle of an attack and you're losing guys, you can get away with building a 5th warp gate then, because you don't have to spend money on pylons. But when you're getting close to max, like right before you push, I'm a little leery of getting a 5th one. Well, actually, no, maybe this is the right time to get it. And this is the sort of push that a lot of Zerg players have been struggling with, and I think it's pretty clear that we're not going to see any struggles of that nature coming up. Yeah, there's the puking going on. Early layer just for that range upgrade. That's so great. Yeah, and as we can see, oh, it's not a range upgrade. I don't know what glial reconstitution does. Do they have a range upgrade? I have no idea. See, like I said, I don't make roaches in this game. I've been watching his play, so I haven't made them. So I should probably do some research on that. Probably a little investigation-ation. Oh no, it's the speed upgrade for him. That's right. Sorry. Yeah, it makes him walk faster. I'm thinking of Hydra-based. Sorry. So here's a little bit of an issue right now that we're seeing. Oh, the queen didn't get out in time. That's so tragic. So this is a bit of an issue I'm noticing right now, is that on that other map, when there was 2-gate pressure going on, there was absolutely no problem whatsoever dealing with that rush, because he got these roaches up first, he had the burrow, so we could sort of do the burrow-unburrow junk. But this game we got a little bit faster of a layer. We got the glial reconstitution, which, as I now know, is a speed upgrade, right? Makes them waltz around a little bit faster. And if that's wrong again, then LOL, whatever, no big deal. But yeah, he rushed for that, and I'm not sure it would have helped him as much as the burrow. It seems like this expo is a little bit weaker, considering that this is becoming the increasingly common mid-game push in this matchup. And especially Smuff wrote a brief article saying that a mid-game push like this, including Immortals, is even harder. I think that's an important consideration to make. We'll talk a little bit about this after this game. We're going to see some pretty decent micro pulling back this weakened Roach. Look at that. That was a phenomenal job right there, pulling that guy back. Getting the queen involved in everything. And of course, she's still ever so affectionate and will hopefully be vomiting. Oh no, missed a vomit on the little layer there. So yeah, look at this. These Roaches were pretty adequately able to deal with this push right here. So I think a big goal in future games for Oversky is to just get a handful of more drones if he sees this fast gas with these big warp gate pushes opening early on. So he's being held back, but I still don't think that Oversky's in any sort of horrendous situation. 44 food to Oversky's 47 food. He's actually a little bit ahead, and as we can see in the replay counter, he even has more drones. This seems to be a critical number that a lot of people are just stopping probe production at, 24 probes, because that means you have 16 on the minerals, which is pretty damn close to saturation, and you have 3 on the assimilator. Getting a 6th warp gate, I don't know about that. Don't get more warp gates, just get better macro, you see, with the 780 minerals. Okay, and this is one other huge thing to say. If you're about ready to get to another production cycle, first make the guys and then go about building gateways. You would not believe how many people see themselves get their money like really high, and then they go, oh goodness, my money's high, and instead of just first building units and spending it, they build a bunch of gateways and then they make units, and some of the time they can't even make units because of the money they spent on the gateways. Oh, that's not how macro works. Oh my goodness. Don't be doing it like that, or of course Day9 will curse you on his live stream. Pre-expanding once again. But, you know, despite this loss, despite losing this expo early on, the question is, what are we seeing right now? Is there some positive stuff we can say in Oversky's position? I think the answer is an undoubted yes, a unanimous yes among all the people here, which would be me. We're seeing that just getting some Roaches early on, like there was maybe 12 or so Roaches there, it was able to hold the attack off. And right now, Oversky is in a position to put pressure. He has that. He has the upgrade for the Roach. He also has Burrow, so we can do a lot of damage with him. And now it looks like he's really in the advantage. He's really able to put a bunch of pressure back on. So I feel like if instead of teching, if instead of holding off on this layer for just a little bit, if instead he just got the Burrow, got a few Roaches, made some drones, and got a slightly more delayed layer, he would be able to have a lot more pressure that he's putting on his opponent, have a much safer expansion, and be much better off overall. We can all just see that very clearly right now. And this push right now, I'm not the biggest fan of, but you know what? With Burrow, you can get away with anything. And it means our opponent is locked in his base until he gets some sort of vision on those. And obviously this mass Stalker is because Stalkers do extra damage versus armored, and Roaches are, as you know, armored. Yeah, that move speed has been upgraded. Alright, cool. And, you know, he's unburrowing, doing some other stuff. You know, I like this idea of pulling back. Perhaps not pushing so far forward in the first place, but just taking a few shots and burrowing back here. But even so, I love the fact that it contains the Protoss player. And, of course, still making Roaches. This is an interesting spot to be in right now as the Zerg. Because the question is, am I really... I mean, the safety is a big concern right now, as we'll note. But how do we spend this money right here? Should we be getting some of these other upgrades? Should we be getting the Roach Burrow move upgrade? Because perhaps we could just do a ton of harassment in here. You know, yeah, you know, you can counterattack me, Protoss, but I'll unburrow and I'll kill off all your probes. This is actually giving me a lot of ideas just seeing this Roach play here. Canceling, pulling back. Trying to think of yet another way to spend that money. It's kind of tough because, again, it's so early in the beta stages. You know, just being able to know what's appropriate to spend your money on, but still something to consider. Ooh, a nice little Burrow jank going down here. Yeah, look, expanding up here. Fantastic. And speeding things up a little bit because I want to make sure we get to this game between Oversky and Louder to wrap things up. Oh, yes, look at these sentries. Doing a little bit of the Guardian Shield. And look, oh, it's okay to be aggressive when you can force field. You know, well, when you have 2 force fields. And the Queen is pissed, man. She is coming out. Ugh, get back home. She is just exhausted. Speeding it up. Look at all this pressure that's being put back on. Oh, my goodness. You know, Protoss is trying as hard as he can to continue to warp stuff in, but notice how broke he is on gas, and pretty much how he can't really sustain production out of here. Again, get better macro. Don't just add on more of the gateways. So continuing to make a Roach army and then double expanding. Yeah, now we're figuring out a way to spend that money. Getting an infestation pit. We're going to see what he's going to be doing with that. But I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit because I wanted... Oh, a Hydralisk Den. Okay, never mind. So, why is the Hydralisk Den a good idea now? Not just for the Hydralisks, but also because Hydralisks cost more money than Roaches, and it'll help us spend this money of ours that's so high. And also, really low on minerals. That's why I love the fact that he is double expanding here. It reminds me a lot of Protoss vs. Terran, where, you know, in StarCraft 1, where the Protoss player will sort of hold back, until he can get some sort of good contain on the Terran, until the Terran's feeling a little bit more passive, and then immediately double expands with a fairly reasonably large force, which is what we're seeing right here. And then getting the double evolution chambers, yeah, all sorts of ways to get money spent. This is something that I think should have been thrown down a little bit earlier when we're in that tough spot, is getting those upgrades up a lot faster. Again, because we're noting that there's absolutely no problem that Oversky has with money right now. So, if he had spent money earlier on with these upgrades, he would be in literally the identical position he is now, with a little bit less money and perhaps either a carapace or a range upgrade. So going ahead and bouncing on in here, one thing I'm noticing this game is, given the position that Oversky's in, he's been a little bit less good about proactively gooping up the entire map with all his Overlords. That's something that's very easy to happen when you're in an intense spot, so for instance if you lose this expansion, but I still think it's really important to try to do that as often as possible. And pretty damn good force fields. I'm loving that force field stuff. I mean, this one obviously wants to be scooted over a little bit there. But hey, look at this. Looks like we're going to have the chance to break our opponent. A few Hydralisks coming in, just helping spend everything up. And continuing to track them down. Get back here, stalkers! Taking them down. And look at this. Look how swiftly he was able to push back. Now, this is something I'm a little bit always about. It's very easy after a big battle to just sort of go, ooh, and just sort of immediately swing back and kill off your opponent. I think it's good to swing back and get in your opponent's face a little bit, mainly to contain and just to sort of hold and bide your time, because there's a few issues I'm seeing right now with this. One, Oversky just lost all his Roaches, which was a lot of larva worth of time. And also, Oversky's money is getting really high. Are we actually spending all our larva? Well, it looks like we have some build up here, you know. Oh, the evolution chambers aren't upgrading. All this stuff that has nothing to do with this battle is slipping as a result of this counterattack. And again, Oversky's position, I mean, he's been in a really intense game. He's been having to cancel expansions. He's delayed his expansions a lot. It's understandable for him to be, you know, not making the absolute best decisions that he'd want to make. And of course, by the way, this is his like 80th game out of 100 that he's been playing consecutively, so you know, give him a break. But still, we will always look for things to improve upon in the Day 9 Daily. So transferring drones, and now going ahead and transitioning right into Hydralisks. Another thing that I'm noticing is that in the first game that we looked at, it was Roach not into Hydralisks. It was Roach into getting a Spire. But if we're kind of tied back, where we want to spend money and we want to be getting these upgrades for like range and carapace, transitioning into Hydralisk seems like a lot better of an idea because we're already having the upgrades for it. Whereas with the Mutalisks, we're more thinking, oh yeah, I need to get a whole bunch of gas early on so I can actually get these Mutalisks up. So you end up cutting back a little bit on money, and the Roaches sort of allow you to do that. Speeding it up, speeding it up. Because I want to make sure we get to this post-patch game between Oversky and Louder, and talk about perhaps some of the links we're seeing between stuff we saw in these two games and what we can see in that game. Because that's one of my favorite things to do when we get the opportunity to look at one player over and over again, is to see how his decision-making is changing over time. So, a nice fancy little wall off here, but of course Protoss wants to pull his units back and just isolate the Zerglings. What an awesome little trick there. Don't do this, be patient! But of course, you know, with this many Hydralisks, it's going to be pretty tough for Protoss to really be able to do anything about it. Probably going to be needing Storm or some Immortals or some other unit. Oh, Hydralisks are light? I had no idea. I thought they were just nothing. Oh yeah, well anyways. Yep, and then just breaking the front, and of course, no big deal, but, you know, a little bit of a non-ideal game, I would say. You know, we want to be getting in his face a little bit more with our Roaches. We want to be, is a patch? Oh my god! We don't get the chance to look at the next game, because they are patching StarCraft 2 right now. Huh. Well, that sure is a first. All right, I'm gonna try to re-log in one more time. Let me drink this piece of water really slowly. Oh my God, the patch is coming out right now. Oh, thank God. Okay, so there's two reasons why the patch coming out right now is really good. First of all, I do the TeamLiquid.net StarCraft 2 beta podcast with my friend Tristan, and last week we did a review right after the first patch was released. We did the podcast, we uploaded it the next day, but the problem is that night they released another patch. So our podcast was only, valid for like 2 hours or something like that. So our podcast was immediately made obsolete. So now that there is a new patch coming out right now, hopefully we'll have some good podcast discussionation action going on. So now that I see that it's updating, hopefully we will get the chance to look at this Overskys game. Thank God I actually continued right along as planned. Aha, going into the final game, which again was just recently played according to Overskys. He actually sent me this replay. So I thank you sincerely, Overskys. Continuing to vamp, trying to fill in the time. Oh, Windows security alert. Yeah, I bet StarCraft 2 is a virus. Yeah, that's kind of a big concern of mine. Logging in. Oh, it's going to let me log in. Ah, fuck, I love Blizzard. Yes! Okay, so I'm going to double-click Overskys versus Louder. Look at this. It's letting me go into the previous version. That's so cool. I don't need the wonderful 7x patcher that was made by the Russian programmers to get me to go, switch between patches in StarCraft 1. It's just sort of built in. So sweet. We're now getting to see a game between Louder and Overskys. Oh, that's so great. Oh my God, the patch was just released. Oh my God, when I get out of this, I'm going to cook a pizza. Think about the patch. We're doing a ton of playing tonight, ton of practicing good. And we have usual sort of thing coming up. So on this map, there's an expansion right here, a nice juicy natural. Distances are reasonably close to one another. In particular, I'm always a little surprised at how close the cross-map distances are, because you'll note it's a direct walk from base to base. That's what I was just performing right there. So let's see how Overskys' build has changed. I've already seen him favor getting the hatchery after his spawning pool. He gets the spawning pool first. We can get that very early queen, so we can begin doing the affectionate larva vomit as early as possible. And we see this is something that a lot of Protoss players have been doing as of late, which is to get the pylon and the gateway super close to the ramp, because it's easier to block with a zealot right there than it is to block with a handful of zealots right here. So we see the spawning pool going down. Great. Overskys is continuing to favor. It looks like a spawning pool on 13 or 14. And getting a very early extractor. He likes doing this as well, so that we can have enough gas to get those roaches early on, because normally roaches don't really cost that much gas, but because you get the puke of the queen, those 4 larvae pop off right at the same time, so that's 100 gas that you'd be spending. So you need to go ahead and get that gas a little bit early if you want to do La Roche. Excuse me, so we're seeing 2-gate from Louder. This is interesting. Louder he's pretty damn creative. I've seen him with Protoss. He has a big variety of stuff I've seen him do. He's been playing around with Phoenixes. Before this, I was seeing him play around with early pushes, as we actually saw in the MLG show match between Artosis and Louder. And this game, it looks like he's actually going for some sort of 2-gate opening. So that's sort of interesting to see. And we're seeing a Roach Warren come down early. Oh, cool. The question is, let's rewind and see if there was any scouting that was done early on, right? This is the stuff that I always want to go back and re-review. So thanks to this nice little functionality, I can hit play and I can speed things up. And it looks like he's just, comfortably managing his base. And it looks like he's just going straight into Roach Warren. And, oh, by the way, I love this so much. This is one little thing to note. Look at his Overlord scout pattern. Yeah, sure, the first one goes here, but where do the Overlords go next? Well, this Overlord's going right here to overlook this base, and this Overlord's going right here to overlook this base. In other words, the Overlords are both going to a high ground location where they will be nice and safe and happy. It's very easy to autopilot and send this Overlord directly towards the opponent's main just to scout him earlier, but there are a lot of anti-air units in this game, so that is something to be very aware of. So what I'm seeing right now is that Overskys is instead going for this Roach Warren early on this map. So let's relate this back to our other two games. In game 1, we saw him get the Roach Warren after he expanded. Makes total sense. He can scout his opponent early with the Overlord. The attack distances are super long. He already sees his opponents going ahead and wailing down on that destructible rock. No need whatsoever to get those Roaches really early on. He just needs to get the Roaches eventually. In game 2, we saw him send out that early drone scout. He got to poke around everywhere, got into his opponent's base, even snuck away with some earlier drones, then got the Queen, and expanded before the Roach Warren. On this map, it looks like he is just going for the Roach Warren pretty early on without doing any sort of scout. Makes complete sense as to why he'd be doing this, and to be honest, given the fact that I said right at the start, positions are pretty close, this means that Roaches can put pressure on the opponent early on. It's not that Overskys is just being dumb and not scouting, and oh, why is he wasting money on this Roach Warren early on? We could instead be expanding. This is, the positions are pretty close. We want to have the opportunity to be able to have some variety and put pressure on. Excuse me. Yeah, this isn't just him being dumb. This is him saying, yeah, I can get Roaches early on for defense and be able to put pressure back on my opponent. We're seeing Louder continue to do this Zealot rush, and very nicely timed Cybernetics core. Actually, was not really doing that in my trials of this. And I'm curious where he's going to be chrono boosting, if he's boosting the gateways or the Nexus. I'm really, really curious to see that. And look at this timing, look at this timing, look at this timing. Hi, Roaches are here. Fuck off, Zealots. Oop, oop. Actually, Zealot's almost killing a Roach. Never mind, Louder's really getting in his face. This is nice timing by Louder, man. Really doing the wailing on action. This is why I love two-gate pressure. This is why I love this sort of stuff. It kind of puts me into the tech tree. Puts me into a tough spot if I'm Zerg here. Nice micro there by Overskys. Look at that calm hold right there. And instead of going for any sort of early expand as we've seen in the other game, instead just getting his extractor right away and getting a layer early on. Looks like he wants to put a ton of pressure back on his opponent. But what are we seeing here? What do we see? What do we see? It's a hatchery! Yeah, Oversky. Thank you for helping make me look a little bit smarter, right? In the other games, I was saying that it was Expo then Roach, but in this game it's Roach then Expo, right? Ho! And getting the layer a little bit earlier on. I want to see what he's going to be doing with that. Might be just going for that glial reconstitution speed, which, as we can read with our cunning use of the English language, increases the movement speed of Roaches. Unlike what I was saying in the first game, which is where I was like, he's going to be going for this range upgrade, which of course it is not. And look at the timing. They popped right off, instantly getting that larva right back on there. By the way, I think vomiting's funny, right? Is that weird? I think vomiting's always the best punchline. That's why I always love just making these jokes about, look, Overlord's puking, Queen's vomiting. Because, think of it this way. Any joke is better with vomiting as the punchline, right? Like, why'd the chicken cross the road? It's a really good joke. I dig it. It's so clever always. I really think that my wit cannot be exceeded just by mentioning puking every so often. Oh, so he's getting the speed upgrade. And this is one thing I love seeing about Overskys play, is that I'm thinking about this game, still I can feel myself thinking a little bit too much in StarCraft 1 terms, If I get my layer, I'm getting it for the Hydra-based den. I'm getting it for Spire or something like that. But instead we see this fast layer, and he's getting the speed upgrade, which will allow him to move his Overlords everywhere and puke and that sort of thing. We've also seen him get this speed upgrade for the Roaches. A lot of clever use with Roaches. Again, Overskys inspired me not to use Roaches, not to experiment with my own play, because I can just watch his play and learn from it, and then I can experiment around with all this other stuff. But, I'm getting so giddy I might just do it myself. I'd like a drone transfer here. So Oversky, if you're watching this, transfer your damn drones, dude. But meanwhile, we're seeing that Louder, who's been experimenting a lot with these sorts of timings with rushes and that sort of thing. Look at this. There is so much here that is just well thought out, right? The timing with the warp gates all coming up right now. Look, it's primarily a Stalker army, or as I call them, a Dragoon army. And we're even getting this Observer early. Clearly there has been some issues Louder's experienced with Roaches having that Burrow upgrade early on in the game. So that is fantastic to see that sort of timing going on here. But lots of one base aggression from Louder. I'm really interested to see what sorts of early expands Protoss have in store. So Louder really keeping the pressure on, even though he lost those early 3 Zealots. He assumed that it was more than worth it. Look, doing some target firing, picking off a Roach, pulling back, pulling forward. Abuse this with Stalkers. Stalkers are pretty damn fast, and they have a range of 6. Roaches are pretty slow when not on creep, and they have a range of 3. So you can do a lot of abuse with stalkers early on. Look, just bouncing back and forth. Look, this is so awesome. Who says there ain't no micro in StarCraft 2? Well, actually a lot of people, but I disagree with them. So continuing to get some roaches. Ooh, getting the roach burrow. I'm really curious to see if he's doing that glial reconstitution upgrade. So, you know, as much as I've been saying, oh, I love how clever it is getting this early layer, doing all this fancy stuff with the speed, with the Overlords and the Overlord puking and getting this range, the speed upgrade. Part of me is saying, right now, we're not getting to use it, all right? We haven't seen the Overlords really get around there. We're seeing some of them here in the middle of the map, but I would like more use out of this layer. Otherwise, we could argue that you should just be early expanding and doing other things with your money. So we're seeing the expansion down right now from Louder. He's getting the Templar Archives. I haven't seen any Chrono Boost, or whatever this thing is called, this Research Charge upgrade. Haven't really seen that much of the charge going on. Could be spending the Chrono Boost a little bit better. I think that's going to be the biggest influence with a lot of Protoss builds, is figuring out how to be using Chrono Boost really effectively in the late game. Still just a lot of roaches going down, now getting more gas. And hey, look, this is that same transition style that we were seeing on those games before. In particular, the game on Scrap Station, where we saw roaches straight into Aspire. And look, we're saving up larvae. We don't really have that much money. We're building up gas. But that's because we were spending all that money on the roaches, and as we hang out and wait a little bit, the money will eventually catch up, and we can hopefully make a whole bunch of Mutalisks right at once. And look, continuing to extend this creep, make sure these guys get extra boosted speed. Look, you have that green movement speed. You notice that the roaches have a little bit of extra speed there. Queen's bouncing back and forth between everywhere. And look, puking here to make sure that the movement in between bases is nice and fast. Loving it. I would love to just come into the Protoss' base and try to just get a little bit of creep there. Just to really get in his face. Let him know who the boss is. I like this transition to Templar. I actually think this is really, really cool. Getting the robotics facility just to get the early observer. I know a lot of players have been liking getting immortals to deal with those roaches. That may have been a way to just push in there early with those starting stalkers. Getting ideas, baby. But let's go ahead and continue to focus back on Oversky. A little bit low on the money. Getting a few Mutalisks, but not too many at this point. We see just 2 moving across the map. Continuing to expand out here. And I swear, I need some way to disable this sound effect for Overlords. I mean, I'm just going to turn it up a little bit, actually a lot. Listen to what you have to hear if you're doing this all game long. All game long. I'm not even looking at anything else. I just can't handle that noise. Sorry, stressed myself out. So an early infestation pit. I've seen Oversky play around a lot with infestors recently. But I just love the use of these roaches to let us do all sorts of fancy stuff. We've seen the roaches do pretty distinctly different things in all 3 games. But because they're in all 3, we get the chance to think about them, and because they are all from one player, we can see how they sort of relate to each other. Now, Louder's been experimenting a lot with Phoenixes, and Phoenixes look cool, but I'm still unconvinced about the utility of Phoenixes. So hopefully we'll see some cool stuff out of it this game. Let's go ahead and speed things up. I'm real curious to see if there's any infestors going down, or, oh look, is it just getting a hive with the layer? What would I do right now as Zerg? One thing I would do is I would take all my guys here and kill these destructible rocks. It's not like I'm going to let my opponent expand there by doing that, you know. Just something that we want to be thinking about since we have map control right now. And that's always a big consideration. Both players are sort of hanging back, but the Zerg has this unspoken control over the map, right? Zerg can easily waltz here and waltz back, but the Protoss really kind of has to stay in, defend from these Mutalisks. He has to group up into one ball and make sure he has observers to deal with any sort of burrow, etc., etc., etc. So even though Zerg may have not even wanted to expand here first, he may have wanted to expand to this as his 3rd, so that way he can secure this as his 4th, but there's still no reason not to kill this off right now. So Queen's still marching around here, puking on everything, just making sure each Havtree feels loved, making a lot of Mutalisks. Mutalisks are just very strong against Protoss. But in any game, if you can have some sort of distractory force, such as Mutalisks just waltzing around, this can be a huge pain in the ass for Protoss. Look, just a few seconds of delay caused those 2 warp gates to be canceled, or gateways soon to be warp gates to be canceled. We have some Phoenixes wandering around here. This is one thing that's nice about Phoenixes. In StarCraft 1, the Protoss would get a lot of Corsairs, because Corsairs helped Protoss get map control. It pushed all the Overlords back. It forced all the Zerg units to sort of be focused on defending the Overlords. And Phoenixes are going to help Protoss do the same thing as well in this game, just with that air control. But I'm still unconvinced about Phoenixes because they die so quickly. One thing I do want to re-emphasize is that this game is post-first patch, right? The first two games we looked at were on the original build of the beta, and in this game, this is one of the more recent games. So this was, I'm hoping that all you can see that this is an example of how Overskys was taking all his learning that he got in those 100 games, and of course his other games that he's played, and how he's been able to apply them right here, right? We see the Spire is being morphed into a greater Spire right now. He's using these Roaches once again to help him transition into Mutalisks, and we're seeing this hatchery be built here. Still a lot of gas going on right now. So almost certainly a bunch of Broodlords in the works. And I'm digging this. I'm into this strategy. A lot of Phoenixes being made. I know a lot of people have seen the harassment potential of Phoenixes. And one question is, can Louder really support all of these warp gates at once? Maybe, maybe not, but I feel like these Stargates aren't going to be constantly producing Phoenixes all game long. That's one of those things where we want to get a lot of Phoenixes fast. That's why we get the 2 Stargates. But we are eventually planning on transitioning back to a big ground army. And plus these Templar are super scary. Ooh, look out, Mutas! And all game long, I have to hear the Overlords. Ugh, I hope I can turn that off somehow. And the Greater Spire is done. And hopefully we're going to see some Broodlord action come up hither. Because now that we do have a Greater Spire, we see some Corruptors coming out. Corruptors and Mutalisks just tear through air and just absolutely demolish it. So I actually like this as a potential transition. Just Roaches right into big mass air. And here's some Broodlords being made right now. Ooh, look at them just taking them down nice and fast. Wouldn't even mind a Warp Prism there just to continue to bolster things into the army. And look how low that Nexus is on Chrono Boost. 11 energy, just making sure everything's Chrono Boosted non-stop. Again, I think it will be like the biggest influence on Protoss late game play. So we finally have some Broodlords coming out. No Mutas anymore. It just looks like there were some Corruptors lurking about somewhere. Oh, I guess, yeah, sorry, the Corruptors morphed into the Broodlords. My bad. So yeah, we're seeing a whole bunch of just big anti-ground army. And look at all these storms, no micro whatsoever. Ugh, oh god. Oh, Jesus, these poor Roaches. Holy shit. But it looks like not the worst deal in the world. I mean, the Roaches are healing super fast because they got the Hive level upgrade. And surprisingly, the Protoss has to be pushed back by that 0 micro Zerg army. I'm going to go ahead and speed things up a little bit here. That was actually on fast, not fastest. And we have some Overlords in this group. I mean, I have never really seen... Oh, we even have a Queen in there. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Might be, though. But this Broodlord-Roach combination, that's pretty intriguing to me. And what's cool is that in this, what we've seen is that in the first 2 games, Overskys opened up and had a lot of mid-game to his play, right? He had a lot of just layer tech. In the first game, it was mainly Mutalisks. In the second game, it was mainly Hydra-based. But now we're seeing going all the way to Hive. He's taking it past the mid-game level and sort of approaching it right now. Obviously, I would have ideally liked to see Micro to save some of those poor Roaches' souls. Would like to see more Overlord gooping up all over the place. And another huge-ass attack here. Yeah, another storm. But man, look, those Roaches coming back right at the end of the game to build more Roaches. I actually really like that a lot. That's pretty cool. We use the Roaches in the early game to let us stay alive. Do some transition to some other jank here. These Broodlords are clearly doing a ton of damage. These Roaches are doing like, way more damage than I thought possible. Holy crap. And look, Overlord's just puking on the ground. I am so impressed that Overskys was actually able to live through all this. This is actually an amazing, amazing little transition right there. And look, just sort of waltzing right back and doing a ton of damage. I'm really starting to feel like Immortals would be super beneficial here and maybe cutting out with the Phoenixes. I don't really see the Phoenixes doing too much yet again. they weren't even able to do that much harassment throughout the game, and that looks like it's going to be a good game right there. So you know what? It's 8:06 p.m. I don't want to keep anyone from doing any of the fun things that they want, so I'm just going to briefly take a few questions because I have been going for a full hour right now. So let's just go ahead and take these few things going on right now. What are some good questions? Oh yeah, Cell says, you mentioned that you like the use of Overlord Vomit. Wondering if you've seen Overlords park over enemy expo sites and vomit, which I assume would keep them from building a nexus in the command center. Just as an idea, I can't test it without the beta. Yeah, I've actually seen that a lot. Overskys is actually the person who I stole that idea from. Actually never occurred to me in the first place. But you get Overlord speed very early on, and you rush over the expansion, and you vomit on it, but you keep an eye on that Overlord, because you can always back out. But then Oversky takes all his Overlords and vomits everywhere on the entire map, on every single expo. Because not only is it spotting the expo, but it's really sort of delaying the expansion, if the player does want to do that. What I love about that is that it really makes the Zerg just feel like this huge, gigantic, all-over-the-place force, because you can get creep everywhere. So Iglex says, do you think backteching to Roaches after Hydra-based would be a good idea considering the range and carapace upgrades and the fast Roach heal upgrade after Hive? I actually think that's a really cool idea. Backteching is a word that I refer to, which is, I think it's a word I actually made up. Actually, I'm the only person I've ever heard use it originally, which is the idea of getting some tech that's far down the line and then backing up and getting the previous stuff. So getting a whole bunch of Dragoons and Protoss vs. Terran and then backing up to get Speed Zealots, right? That's a back tech. So what we're hearing here is to get Hydra-based to help you stay alive and manage everything, but then in the late game with all the Hive tech level upgrades for Roaches, using those is a huge part of your force. And what I'm seeing right here is that I had no idea Roaches were that scary late game. I actually want to rewind briefly and just show that battle one more time. That was insane. Right, here's this battle. I'm going to speed up till we get right there, and then look, this is, you know, a pretty decent amount of Roaches right here. There's some more Roaches coming up here, so I'm keeping an eye. Let's just look at the life here. Look at all these Roaches' life. This is just the original set I was selecting. It looks like we've lost 2, and there's a third one going down. And that looks like it was, yeah, there's a fourth one going down. Oh my god. Look at that. Holy shit. That's unbelievable. I love that. That is a phenomenal use of the Roaches, man. I just think that's fantastic. Oops. Going to go ahead and transition right back here. So let's go ahead and just take one more question coming out here. Oh yeah, and someone was, of course, telling me that I can hold down the Alt key to look at those life bars. Whoopsie doopsie daisies. So I'll go ahead and remember to do that. I always forget that. So let's just take one more question for this game right now. People are asking a lot of general questions about StarCraft 2, but I want to make sure we just stay focused on this game because you can just listen to the TeamLiquid.net podcast that'll be released either tomorrow or Saturday for all that stuff. I'll take S. Belmont's question one last time for the last question. So S. Belmont says, we didn't see Roach burrow movement in any of these games. Do you think that it may have some use in the future with Worker Harass? That's actually something that I was thinking about in this game, that the Roaches, we just got a few early on, or I shouldn't say we, Overskys just got a few early on, and those were the defensive unit that was going to let him stay alive until he could get all these Corruptors and Mutalisks and eventually these Broodlords out. So I'm thinking that if the map were a little bit more open, like Kulas Ravine or something like that, or even maybe Steppes of War, what the Zerg player could do to put even more pressure on Protoss without changing anything else of his build is just to get that movement burrow upgrade, and with a small pack of his initial Roaches, just sort of waltz around, back and forth, unburrow, do some damage, burrow, run away. And what that would force the Protoss to do is to have observers for a long time in the game and to be really leery of moving out unless he has a good eye on every place of the map. So I think that that would be a super, super cute transition right there and still wouldn't affect any of this other stuff. So you know what? That's going to go ahead and wrap up everything for today. This was Day 9 Daily number 82. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, the TeamLiquid.net beta podcast will be coming out tomorrow. I'm going to try to also fix the Flash vs. Quanro game, which of course got a little bit corrupted due to some connection issues. And, oh yeah, vote for me in the GhostlyGamers.net Community Award for 2009. You can find that at GhostlyGamers.net. And that is going to wrap things up. I am off to eat some pizza and read the patch notes. Cheers, everybody.